What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Making me correct the damn thing.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I am your host, Scott Catamas, also known as Love Coach Scott, and we have a beautiful Earth Day show. A reminder to everybody, please keep yourselves muted. I heard a little bit of something going on, and as I came on, and we're going to have kind of a fun show tonight. Of course, every year, this is now our fourth Earth Day show that we've done. And I saw that my good friend Mitchell Rabin, who also does an Earth Day show every year, was putting together a great show with all the people I would want to have on. So I reached out to Mitchell and I said, hey, bro, is there a chance that we could collaborate? And Mitchell, being the wonderful guy that he is, said yes. So I'm going to bring him on right now. This is Mitchell Rabin, and he is the founder and creator of abetterworld.net. And he has been supporting a better world for decades. We have come to the conclusion that we are twins separated at birth with a similar mission to really help raise consciousness through media. And Mitchell, like myself, has been producing events and shows and bringing inspirational new thought leaders to the world for a long time. He did a fabulous show yesterday, and we're going to show some of the wonderful clips of that show tonight, as well as having live appearances by Chief Phil Lane, Destiny Love, and of course, our beautiful beloved brother, Omashar. So we've got a fun show planned. Mitchell, welcome to the Awakening World, your inaugural debut here.
Indeed. Thank you, Scott. It's really, truly a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and your audience. Really great.
Now, we're going to be asking throughout the show, what does Earth Day really mean to people? And I just want to start with you, Mitchell. What does it mean to you?
Earth Day is a chance for us to reflect on who our deepest, largest, highest mother is. And I always say that, Scott, with full respect for my own mother of birth. You know, it's not one or the other, it's actually both and. It's a level of micro and macro, and the fact that Mother Earth is also Gaia, as you and I both so deeply agree. It's also Pachamama. It's the feminine intelligence of the universe that has contracted, if you will, into Earth as we know her, a place for our birth and regeneration. So in some way, it's really a celebration, if you will, of the entirety of the universe in the form of Gaia, Pachamama, and Mother Earth. So just like we celebrate our own birthdays and we celebrate Mother's Day, This is a chance for us to directly honor in a very focused way, our beautiful and dear Mother Nature and Mother Earth, from whose loins we ultimately really come.
Absolutely. I love you saying that. You know, as a coach, Mitchell, frequently when I'm working with somebody who has mother issues, that a mother that was abusive or neglectful, I always encourage them to remember that that mother is a very simple human being with very
Yes.
limited capacity. But Mother Earth Gaia is vast beyond our imagination. And she blesses us with every breath, the food we eat, the water that we drink. And so if we can take our attention off that human mother that just isn't capable and
Mm-hmm.
put our attention on receiving from our big mama, then it's a shift. And I've had a lot of clients that's really shifted their life to stop looking to little mom
Yes.
for it and to really receive from big mom.
That's a beautiful way of putting it, Scott. And in alignment with your statements about our being twins on this path, this is yet another example, because I've been a coach and a holistic psychotherapist for decades. And one of the things I feel like it's going to sound funny that I have evolved since the work of Sigmund Freud, even though I was never a Freudian or anything like that. But nonetheless, he plays a very important role in understanding the evolution of psychology and, of course, psychotherapy and psychoanalysis, which are important aspects of understanding human nature. I went from what you're calling the smaller mother to the biological mother to Mother Earth in my work with clients, and say, look, first we've got to get clear, of course, with your love and respect of your own personal mother. But then we have to go to, if I dare say, the impersonal, or rather better, the transpersonal mother, Mother Earth. And what is our relationship with Mother Earth? Do we care for her? Do we abuse her? Do we exploit her? Do we extract from her? Or do we treat her with love and with a regenerative attitude? And that, to me, is a measure of health and a level of healing that really needs to take place.
Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. Well, I was so excited to introduce you. I forgot to do something that I always do. And then we're going to go to Chief Phil Lane in a moment, everybody. But I want to acknowledge all the people watching on Facebook. Mitchell, the Sign Network, John and Summer Raymer,
Sure.
out to as many as 175 Facebook groups and pages. It's really where we have our big reach.
Yes.
And, so I'm excited about that. And if you're watching on Facebook, or if you're watching on maybe Alan Steinfeld's YouTube channel or our Global Peace Tribe YouTube channel, that's awesome. And I want to invite all of you to come on in and join the Global Peace Tribe. In fact, I'm going to put on my Global Peace Tribe banner here. There we go. And it's really easy. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, and you can learn all about us, all about what we do, and click the register for the new season button. And that takes you to our registration page. We do 3 or 4 shows every week with amazing guests, wonderful co-hosts, always tackling beautiful topics. For example, this week on Wednesday night, our show is all about humanity awakening. And we collaborated with Portal to Ascension and had amazing presenters sharing their wisdom, homeopathic dosages of their medicine, and always live music. We always have live music. And of course, here's the show that we're doing tonight, our Earth Day show. And our musical artists live with us include Omashar and Destiny Love. And we're also going to see a beautiful video with our beloved Kristen Hoffman. And then tomorrow, it's our monthly community sharing time. Once a month, we have a show, usually on a Sunday, where we really share with our audience. And I do have some special things planned for tomorrow. So come and join us. Also, what the best part about joining the Global Peace Tribe is you get the links to all of our shows for the next 3 months. And then you can come on into the Zoom room, and that's where it's happening. That's where you can chat with our artists, our guests, our presenters, and we put a lot of links into the chat box. And it's helpful. And that's how you get the links to follow up on all the things you're going to learn about tonight. So please join the Global Peace Tribe. It's now my honor, Mitchell, to bring on somebody I know you and I both love very much, Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr. And I'll read a little bit of his bio, but then Mitchell, I'd love to hear your experience of Phil, because I know you've, like myself, you've worked with him for years. Most of our audience knows him, but for anybody new, he is a beloved member of our international community. He has extensive experience in his own cultural traditions, and he's an award-winning author and film producer. He's received national and international recognition for his tireless work in promoting freedom and justice for Indigenous peoples. He travels all over the world, and he truly brings together the eagle and the condor, the North and the South, the white and the red. He is dedicated to focusing on healing the root causes of racism and oppression. He's a beautiful man and a beloved brother. And welcome, Chief Phil, to our Earth Day show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to just extend my warm and heartfelt love and greetings to our beloved, all our beloved members of our human family. And I want to do that from the sacred lands, the Semiahmoo First Nation, unsurrendered, unceded of the Salish Nation. And I'm so pleased to be here with beloved brothers Scott and Mitchell, who have dedicated themselves to uplifting all living things. And so I thank you so much. And I'm so honored to be here with you this evening. Honored.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Phil. Scott, well, just to say a few words, although Phil's words kind of go right through you to the bone, it's just got that kind of power because of his commitment and his sincerity. So the language he uses, the words he uses, they're searing, they're piercing, also right to the heart. Now, it's just so funny because when you speak with Phil, he's just come back from one exotic place of the planet or another, reporting things. The way he talks about them, it seems just simple matter of fact. But in fact, what he's doing is sowing seeds of love that are evolutionary in quality and helping to upgrade humanity to the level I think we should have always been on. But he is helping to restore, if you will, a certain consciousness of love, of peace, of harmony with nature, and harmony between all men and women. And for instance, just before the show began, Phil made a passing reference to being at the Yucatan and the Eagle and the Condor event conference that I just kind of heard a little bit of. And think about the profundity of that little comment. He's bringing together, you know, the South and the North and uniting the energy fields of these as have been prophesied for so many years. And he is one of those beings on the planet today who is executing, who is implementing and manifesting that ancient prophecy. And he's just one of our friends, you know, he's one of our brothers. And yet there he goes, you know, changing the world right before our very eyes. That's how I feel about Phil Lane.
Beautiful. It's true. We love you, Phil. I'm noticing already in the chat box, so many people are sending you loving messages. You are truly an elder that we love and adore. And I'm so honored that you're going to open our show in your beautiful way with an opening prayer.
Beautiful. And you know, I would say, my beloved relatives and beloved brothers, that, you know, anything that you see in me and can see and understand, or any words I have to say that resonate, if you didn't already know them and have them, you couldn't see them in me. Just mirrors. I'm just a mirror. Is all. That's what we want to. We want to be the most beautiful mirrors to one another. to mirror to one another the beauty of our divine being. So, and let's open this with a little prayer here and on this beautiful Mother Earth Day. O Tenkashla Wakantaka, Creator of the universe, most beloved one, all powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate one, ever forgiving one. O Ancient of Days, O Blessed Beauty, we call upon your holy power in the way you've given us in our sacred covenant we've had since the beginning that has no beginning. We give thanksgiving to all our ancestors, past, present, and future, who are closer than our closest vein here as they join us, as we all are part of the sacred prophecies from all sacred traditions everywhere in Mother Earth that are being fulfilled right here and now. And we are together in the birth canal. And we pray the depths of our souls that as these next contractions come forward, that we might humble ourselves like the willow. And as these winds of change that are traumatically changing our human family can pass over us and our beloved ones and our human family with great grace and love. And Takashla Wakantaka, today on this beloved day of our Mother Earth, let us remember her representatives who walk and are living, walking representations, womankind. And may, Creator of all good things, may we truly understand the spiritual reality that the condor, the hummingbird, the quetzal, the eagle have two wings. One is man and one is woman. And until in this physical world of time and space, both wings of this eagle have equal power, respect, and honor, the eagle of humanity will not fly to its promised destiny, in which we will enter now as we are, our spiritual adulthood. And to Gashwa Kantaka, we ask all those tribes and nations of the East from where comes the red sunrise. We give thanksgiving to all those relatives, and we invite them here, those in the spiritual world, unseen world, the seen world, to be with us this night as we celebrate our mother, all our mothers, our Mother Earth, and those mothers who delivered us from the womb world to this womb world, the spiritual worlds beyond. In Kashla Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes and nations of the South, from where comes new life. We give thanksgiving this beautiful day to see the awakening that's happening of our global peace tribe and all human beings who are beginning, as prophesied, to awaken to this beloved day, the day that shall not be followed by night. In Nikashla Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes and nations of the West from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain, and ask that thunder, lightning, and rain might awaken our hearts and minds and free us from attachments to this material world. We might truly walk with the Spirit, hear with the Spirit, see with the Spirit, speak with the Spirit, and be one together as one human family, as we were from the very, very beginning that has no beginning. In Nikashla Wakantaka, we call upon all the tribes and nations of the North, from where comes the purifying north winds, to come together in unity and harmony. We give thanksgiving for all those in the sacred circle of life, all life, and all members of our human family, for continuing on this path. No matter what tests and difficulties we have, we humble ourselves and know outwardly they may seem like fire and vengeance, but inwardly they're truly purifying water. And to Kashwa Kantaka, we humble ourselves before Father Sky. We ask, Creator, that we understand that the overabundance of masculine qualities, called differently in different cultures of what's masculine and feminine, but those qualities that we all have as human beings, that those qualities we call masculine and have taken us to this place of great sorrow, war, and all kinds of things that are hurting our children, our grandchildren, our future generations. So we ask humbly that for forgiveness. And we step back. We step back so the feminine quality of this world womankind might arise as prophesied as they are now, for they shall be the leaders and are the leaders. They're helping us all to realize peace on earth through unifying our human family. And to Kasha Wakantaga, he says, ask blessings to all the relatives, all those beloved relatives who are suffering right now. Just as we pray here every second, many members of our human family, children, others, literally are starving to death without water, without food. We pray for those. We pray for those who are in penitentiaries, those children on the street whose hearts are broken. We pray for those relatives, all relatives, including our animal relatives in the oceans, the skies, and the ground. They're suffering because in Kashla Wakantaka, Mother Earth's not sick. We have to understand we're sick. And the only way for that healing creator is help us, please, we ask with all our soul. Help us to turn within our own self and purify our heart and mind from all that may in any way, shape, or form hurt ourselves or hurt another human being. Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal unto them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, lead them not to themselves, but guide their steps in the light of knowledge and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper, the Lord. Halimi chante washtealo, shankmano hemeado, chinupasapa hemeado, halimi chante washte. In my Dakota language, we close with the words, my names are Shankmano and Chinupasapa, and I stand fully responsible before the Creator for my words and my actions. And may we all have a most beloved Mother Earth Day, and may it be a Mother Earth Day every day.
Beautiful. Let's just take a moment to breathe that in. And we're going to come back to Phil in a moment. But one of the things I think we've all learned is Phil has such a love and such a support for the rise of the healthy feminine, the rise of the divine feminine that we so need to balance things out in this world. And I'm really grateful that we have a wonderful woman with us tonight, Destiny Love. She's a mother. She is a remarkable being and one of my favorite people on the planet. And so I'm so happy that Destiny is with us to lead us in an opening Earth Day song.
Thank you, Destiny.
It's truly an honor to be here. And thank you so much, Chief Phil, for such a beautiful, heartfelt, potent transmission for all of us. Thank you. Deep, deep bow to you. And it's my honor to share today on this special day. I am a priestess of the goddess. I am devoted to the Holy Mother. And we've been traveling for about the last 20 months and feeling myself get more and more purified so that my life can serve as a vessel for the Great Mother. And so I hope tonight as I share this music, which is about her waters, her holy waters, and how important it is that we take care of the waters, because the waters are us. We are water babies, as Grandma Aggie from this region in Southern Oregon used to say. We're all water babies. So may the waters continue to be protected by all the water protectors, and may the waters inside of our bodies be purified. Let the waters be my guide. They will hold me and provide everything I need. I honor and I care. Holy water, She will hold us and provide everything we need if we honor and we care. Holy Mother, purify. Holy Mother, giving life. Holy Mother, flow in me, providing everything I need, providing everything I need, providing everything I need, providing everything we need.
That's
Shema.
all Twinkle Destiny, even if you get your cameras off. That's such a perfect opening song, Destiny, because when we tune into our beloved Mother Earth Gaia, she does provide everything. Everything.
Same.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm going to
So
bring my
beautiful.
co-host Mitchell. Mitchell, you get to meet Destiny for the first time.
Oh my, I feel it's my destiny. Truly so beautiful, and riding the waves of that beauty even after the songs. Truly.
Thank you.
Scott, you've got a wild, wonderful tribe here.
Oh,
Really.
absolutely. And all the beautiful comments coming in. If you,
Yeah.
we're
Get
gonna,
it from all sides.
we're gonna, by the way, hear another song from Destiny in a few minutes, in about a half an hour probably. And then we're going to learn about her beautiful vocal coaching work as well. Destiny, thank you for getting us off to such a beautiful start.
Such an honor to share this song. If I just want to share with you a little 1-minute story about the song. This song, like so many of them, I catch them. I'm a song catcher. I hear them. I hear them in the water. I hear them in the wind. I hear them in the fire. And then I catch the song and I get it in my phone as fast as I can, or else it disappears forever. So this song, we were just in Mexico for the last 3 months of the travel, and we had left this really sacred water that I felt was really healing my nervous system. And we left and we were thinking about maybe going back. And as I was meditating on that, this song came in. And it felt like it came from these holy waters in Mexico as a way to say, yes, come back, follow the waters, follow when you feel rejuvenated, where people are taking care of the water, and continue to follow that path of leaning into what you value as your life choice, you know? And if we can all really start taking steps towards what we value and know that we are that powerful in our own life choices. And I'll speak more when we talk later, but that's a little seed. And thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing to listen and catch those songs. That's really, really beautiful. And it takes the combination of listening and then giving it voice, and then sharing it with us. What a gift. What a gift.
It's a miracle, right? It's such a miracle we can meet in this way from all over, and that we're doing this really actually creates such a ripple of benefit. So thank you, Scott, for bringing us all together.
There's a question. Laura is asking you where the beautiful waters were in Mexico.
So we were on the Bacalar Lagoon, but we were in a really small rural town called Xulha, and like totally Mayan. But next door is one of Mexico's, I think they have 8 Pueblo Mágicos, magical towns. Bacalar is one of them because of this like 25-mile long living water cenote. And it has like 8 colors of blue, and you can see all the way down. And the waters are called living waters because they're alive, they're mineralized, and there's also these creatures in it that's kind of like a freshwater coral that put out this ozone and keep the water like crystal pure. Really magical place. We were there for 2 months on that one spot, just totally intending to heal our nervous systems through this living water, and it really works. I'll be taking a group back there in December. We can talk more about that later, but yes, it's in Bacalar is where it is, and it's truly a magical place, as so many holy waters are. And so I encourage everyone listening tonight to really bond with the waters in your region and get to know your local waters, the springs that are around you, the rivers. Go to them, touch them, make flower offerings, and together we can keep raising the frequency of water, which is what we're all made of. So it's pretty miraculous.
Thank you so much for that reminder.
Thank you.
And we'll have more Destiny later on in the show. I'm going to bring Mitchell back on, and we're going to bring back on Chief Phil Lane. Phil, I see that you put a document in and people are already commenting on it, but share with us more. You are always, like Mitchell said, you're always doing amazing things all around the world. What's the latest report, Phil? What can you share with us?
Well, many people have heard of the prophecy of the reunion of the condor and eagle. And literally, that prophecy was fulfilled, and it's a process. I think everybody did understand that all these prophecies are a process, not an event. So on March 21st, 1970, that prophecy was fulfilled, and that fulfillment went on until the final ceremony at Lake Titicaca, at the Island of the Sun, Island of the Moon. And then that evening, sitting upon the royal court of the Incas, is carved into solid stone on the Bolivian side of Lake Titicaca. That was July 9th, 1971. It'll be exactly 52 years this coming July. And this prophecy comes from even before the Incas, from Tiwanaku. And it was so wonderful when we had the first meeting of the union of the condor, hummingbird, quetzal, and eagle at Palenque, where our sister just was speaking of, in Mexico, at these great Mayan ruins. I wouldn't say ruins, sacred place, because they're alive still. Because we know, like Chief Settle said, there is no death, just a change of worlds. And so it was so clear, I can remember so clearly that night of July 9th, 1971, as we sat there with all my relatives, my Quechua relatives there, and that royal, sitting on the royal stones that the Incas had sat before us, and looking up into the heavens and seeing the glorious stars that you can never believe that surround us. They're just so incredibly beautiful. As we sat there and prayed, the elders said that prophecy has been fulfilled. It's not going to be fulfilled, it has been fulfilled. And that night, as I sat there, I could feel, when locusts all take off together, all that it takes is just one locust just to go like this to the next locust. And boom, that locust, millions take off. But I could feel the rustling all across the Americas of our relatives. Awakening. Again, it's a process, not an event. And so at that time, then what did the prophecy say? The prophecy promises when the eagle and the condor come back together after 500 years, a little over 500 years, when that happens, that the indigenous peoples of the Americas would come together in unity, and through our unity, because it's like all of us are suffering, the greatest challenge we have as indigenous people are our own disunity. And we can blame it how we want to blame it, but the fact is we're all now elders, and it's time to end this unity. And so at that point, as I began to travel across the Americas, and actually I spent time down in Panama when I was just a young boy, about 2 or 3 years old, till about 4 or 5. Of course, that's where I began to learn to speak Spanish and so forth. As I traveled, I knew that how do we come together? Of course, when I traveled down into Guatemala, into Panama, for them, they're not a condor and eagle. And so we began to find, what is that? What is that for them that could bring them into this union? And of course, it's a quetzal. The quetzal, wow, what a bird. And Palenque is the heart of the quetzal. So that's where you'll see, if you go back, even if you go back to that chat thing, where that chat, what IT chat,
Chat.
yeah,
GBT.
right, GBT, exactly. You'll see if you ask these questions up to 2019, you'll begin to see the quetzal included, because at that point, to bring that whole circle in, we added quetzal. Then, when I was in Bolivia, the reason I left was my wife was brutally raped there. And so we had to leave Sucre, which is the heart of the Quechua people. I never wanted to leave, but it took us down to Santa Cruz, to the Amazon. So we shared the prophecies there. And it's a long story, many stories there, but they're spread there. And so when we began in 2020, we began to really communicate with those relatives in the Amazon, because in the Amazon is the pharmacy of the world, literally. And also in Chiapas, in those areas, they're the pharmacy, not just the plant medicines, psychoactive plant medicines people are really getting into, that really come from our indigenous relatives. There's only a few that don't come out of the Americas, but about the medicines for healing diabetes, cancer, you name it, it's there. And I think that's, anyway, so then it became clear, theirs was the hummingbird. Now remember, the prophecy of the reunion of the condor and eagle was fulfilled on July 9th completely, 1971. Will be exactly 52 years coming up this July 9th. It was 52 years. Again, it's so strange how we're in Palenque, because everything there is done in 52-year cycles. We've completed one cycle. So the hummingbird came in. That's why the prophecy that was fulfilled, in fact, it was fulfilled, I can tell you exactly the date, fulfilled on June 20th at 4:44 p.m. PDT, while Kristen Hoffman was singing. Doja Kristen Hoffman was singing, literally. And it was such a powerful spiritual impulse that moved across the world. Many indigenous people who had no access or had no idea what was happening, because at that point we shared, and that footage is there. This happened. They felt it. They knew it. It happened. And so what happened is that through a dear brother who has been so supportive to us, said, let's go down. He wanted to go to the Amazon. I said, let's go to Palenque, because our sister Adriana Alvarez, our sister Edna Fleury, Sister Joan Henry, they had been down there preparing the way. And they were having their 4th equinox ceremony on March 21st. And so in just a short time, a little over a month, the word went out across the Americas. And we're going to have, because that's where we have elected, literally, the first council of the union of the condor, hummingbird, quetzal, and eagle. And so people came from Slovenia. They came from the Hague Center, came to witness these elections. We had relatives coming from the whole delegation came from Ireland. The Irish came because they're indigenous people and they're really realizing it. The Irish went through every bit as much of our indigenous people went through here. And we want to understand that we all have gone through suffering, all of us, and it's time to let that go. So sure enough, we came together whoa, we have some beautiful ceremonies at La Ventana. And we danced. And we danced with those pyramids on March 21st. And that evening, March 21st, we gathered together where we were all staying, and we elected the first council, 13 members. It's very strange. Again, 52 years in the Mayan calendar, the cycle 13 is 13 months or year, and with 13 cycles in a year, 13 members, and the leadership, our co-chairs, one woman and one man. And by the way, the electoral process is something which, by the way, I shared some of these documents. You'll see if you look at them. We're now in process of draft of kind of adding different things and so forth. And you'll soon see there'll be most of them are in Spanish now, but they're going to be within the next 2 weeks. They'll be in Spanish, Portuguese, English, and French. And so it's kind of so what does that mean? What it means is that those representatives who came and the spiritual leaders who stood behind us, even though we'd have the resource to bring them, which we plan on, by the way, this will happen every year now, at the same time in Palenque for the next 3 years. It'll be a 4-year cycle. Together, there came representation from nation states, colonial nation states, in which there lives over 50 million indigenous people, 50 million. And we're now in the process of building the digital backbone, Indigenet, which will, it's completely, how do I say it? Nobody owns this network. Everybody has their own sovereign identity within it. Communities have within their sovereign identity to literally build the alternative. Because our elders told us this: stand in your strength, stand in your spiritual strength, move the positive alternative you wish to create without giving away your energy fighting the negative. And that's what we see. We are, and by the way, the union is not just, and of course, the fulfillment was the indigenous people, the Americans, or people with background. But this union, obviously, in terms of those who agree with what I've shared here, the guiding principles that took us from literally 1982 to 1985, through consultation with thousands of indigenous peoples and others, gave the foundation, our 16 guiding principles. Because what the elders said was, this universe we live in is organized according to certain natural, physical, and spiritual laws. They said the physical laws are easy to understand. You jump off a 10-story building on your head, you're going to get a headache. You drink a glass of arsenic, you're going to get a stomachache. Drive 100 miles an hour into a concrete wall, you're going to get smashed up. Those bind all of us. The foundation of those are the spiritual laws. And that's what those 16 principles are, is the distillation over all those years when we presented them to the United Nations in 1995 after we were concluded. The last 2 years, we were working on those. Literally, we had 500 relatives come together at the University of Lethbridge during our summer institute for 7 days to conclude these 16 guiding principles, which, by the way, are the foundation of Compassion Games. Another document we like to see, Digital Fourth Way, which is there. So I guess where we're at now is this: that while with great sadness we see the world literally collapsing, because whether it's capitalism or communism or what do you want to call it, if it's not built on a spiritual foundation, it's destined to collapse. Mm-hmm. Destined. There's no way around it. So as we see around us the economic conditions, literally, I mean, how in the world you can't have these banks all over the world keep printing money upon money upon money upon money, which is happening. So the economic challenges. We can see that this unity of adversarial partisan politics is just ripping us apart, ripping families apart. We can see, how people are manipulating the news. People are saying, what can I believe? So we need not if you choose to engage in tearing it down. I mean, it's going down anyway. To pray for those relatives to come over and join us as we build the alternative that's based on the understanding of the prior unity and oneness of our human family. We're intimately related to all things, and the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor, the healing, and upliftment of one is the honor, healing, upliftment of all. And so that's where we're at. The union has been formed. Literally, again, embryonically, we've connected all the digital networks of indigenous people across the Americas and are beginning to bring that all together. And the last thing I'm going to share is these all are in prophecies all across the Americas. In 1975, I went with, at that time when I had black curly hair, was about 2 inches taller. My plumbing worked just fine, the whole works. But the whole group of us, my dear brother Lee Brown, so many, Phil Lucas, others, we traveled to see these elders. And so we heard about these two elders, Eddie Belrose and Abe Burnstick, two Crees came down from Saskatchewan to a place called the Sweat House Lodge outside of Corvallis, Oregon. It's the first time we used the Nikaka or the Sweat Lodge to renew a new breath of life to help heal from alcoholism. And we heard these prophecies and we came and listened to them. And to ensure we understood where they came from, Abe Burnstick would only speak in Cree. And then Eddie would translate for us. Then they said something which has something to do right here with what's happening. They said, in essence, someday you young men are going to see the everywhere spirit made physically manifest on the earth. And when that day comes, you're going to be able to look before you and see and talk to people on the other side of Mother Earth. Anything that's been covered up and hidden away will be uncovered. And they went on, and they described in detail the internet. Of course, we didn't understand what it was in 1975. But as soon as even though I still type with one finger because I was so foolish to believe that somehow women were the ones that do the typing, because my mother used to type for my dad on typewriters. And so anyway, that's how stupid we can be. But now, as soon as I saw that, I said, that's it. That's a key. And here we are, doing exactly what Eddie Belrose and Abe Burnstick said in 1975, as clear as this. Here we are, looking at each other from other sides of Mother Earth. I see these relatives visiting from many different places. Last thing comment I would make. Somebody mentioned dandelions on the chat. A sister did. It's so strange. When I came into with my wife, we'd been out getting a few things, and we came in our neighborhood and seeing was out there picking up dandelions. And of course, I remember being told when I was younger that all those dandelions are going to make your lawn not good. And my wife, of course, who's grown up truly in the natural world, the jungle, she said, Phil, no. She said, because it was a friend from another cultural perspective, they're taking that for medicine. That's medicine, Phil. Those dandelions are medicine. And here I come and look at the chat, and they're medicine. We're surrounded with medicine. So that's just kind of a little update on terms of the prophecy that began and fulfilled in 1971 and 72, the reunion of the Condor and Eagle, and now in the addition of the Quetzal, because they don't have eagles and condors. So how do they relate? And in the Amazon, the hummingbird, that brought the perfect balance. So that's what. Thank you so much, Scott. I never had a chance to really share this like this before.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful and so perfect on Earth Day at a time that it's very inspiring, Phil. And kind of I want to read a couple comments before you go from the audience. First off, two of our favorite global peace tribers, Scotty Satori and Jennifer Frank, were both born in that little window between 1971 and 1972, shortly after that. So that's kind of cool. Ayada writes, the significance of 52 years that Brother Phil just mentioned is that one of the Mayan calendars, the Solcan, aligns with the solar calendar every 52 years. It's always a powerful moment to celebrate. The date of your birth will coincide with the Solkin calendar on your 52nd birthday. And then a few other comments. Charlotte writes, Phil, you are the medicine. Destiny writes, thank you so much, Chief Phil. It is such a gift to receive your prayers and wisdom. Carol writes, the documents are very incredibly detailed and interesting. Thank you, Phil. Dorina Joy, who comes to us from Ecuador right now, she lives in Ecuador, writes, synchronistically, just before joining here, my neighbor was asking me whether she can use the whole dandelion. And I told her, yes, for sure, that it is the whole plant energy as a very medicinal tool. And Susan and Reverend Jeffrey and Eleanor Joy are all just appreciating you very, very much. And the comments are still flying in right now. I can't even keep up with them.
Well, beautiful. And those that have that document, it is in process, because I believe everything's in draft. We're in draft. The universe is draft. The whole works is in draft. And so we don't want to get hung up. We got to let go of all these preconceived ideas. We have to open up to transformation, to a whole new way of seeing things, a whole new way of being together is what's required here. And that's what's happening right here in the Global Peace Tribe. So I know the incredible relatives I heard in the program that we had so beautifully that was done by Brother Mitchell. It was so beautiful. And I know you have them, so I'm gonna just step back. I'm gonna listen, and I thank you so much. And please, anybody who wants to know more about this, I'll put my email in there, and please send me an email. I'll pass it on to our team. We have quite a circle coming together, and just love everybody. I think that, really, we're not these earth suits. I think that's so important to understand. We're not these earth suits. Our soul has no gender, has no ethnicity, has no race, has no class. Our soul is a reflection of the oneness of God, the oneness of the Great Spirit, Wakantaka. What do you want to say? So we're something way beyond this thing. Thank God. Because like my dad told me, he said, son, you just wear out.
I love your laugh. I know everybody loves your laugh. One more time, this is the document. We put it into the chat box, but this is the document that is really worth really studying it, really tune into it. And this is the ongoing developing document, just as Chief Phil just said, we're all in process. It's back in the chat box. For those of you on Facebook, come join the Global Peace Tribe so you can get those links. And Chief Phil, we love you so much. Thank you for joining.
Beautiful, Phil.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much, brother.
God bless you all. And Tiny Tim too.
Mitchell, I would like to invite you to introduce our next speaker. Now, he was, of course, this is a video recording from yesterday. So tell us about one. I loved what he had to say. Introduce him for our audience.
Yeah, sure. I originally heard Dar Jamal be interviewed on Democracy's Now! Amy Goodman, Scott, actually, a number of years ago at this point, and I was impressed with his courage as a journalist going to Iraq to be an unembedded journalist. As Phil was saying, so much in the news, you don't know what to believe anymore. It's mainstream news is commercialized and unfortunately largely bought and paid for. So you don't get the straight scoop. So in light of that, he went to bring the truth and the facts forward. And he's been a pioneer ever since. I found out that he was a mountain climber because I heard him being interviewed on his book called The End of Ice. And it was so impactful on me. I found him, I contacted him, he sent me the book, I read it, I cried, I smiled. And the reason is because as a mountain climber, he found that ice was melting everywhere, that there was no way to actually just do his sport of mountain climbing in the world and all the mountains that he was very accustomed to, Alaska, Everest, elsewhere, just one Colorado, etc. And it's a story that's very sobering and at the same time very beautiful and very human. And that's why I invited him to be a guest on A Better World and to be a guest on Earth Day. So those are words of introduction I would share with you. And I'm very glad, as you saw, and I did, what a beautiful soul he is and what a beautiful message he had to share.
Hey, here we go. Thank you so much
for inviting me to be part of this, and thanks everybody else for being here, and folks in the background doing the work to make this possible. And thank you very much, Chief, for the opening blessing. I feel like largely what I can contribute today is if I do a good job, it's at least a little bit of a continuation of what the energy that Chief put out there for us to start this. So to your question, the book, the climate book that I wrote was inspired exactly as you said. I was living in Alaska and watching these very, very dramatic changes happening to glaciers and places I was frequenting over the years, and just watching things change in very, very rapid fashion. And that was a major alarm bell for me. And really that's what led to my years and years later. It was, from when I first started seeing those changes, it was literally 20 years later that I started working on the climate book. And that was after about 10 years of climate reporting. And it really was born of having a deep love for these places that I was getting to go to, and the importance of those places to me, in watching them change and sometimes disappear completely in the case of glaciers, and the ecosystems that rely on those. And so it was a book really born of ultimately love for the earth, but also frustration about what was happening, and trying to bring this into greater awareness of people of how dire the problem is and how dire the situation is that we are in, which I'm sure most people watching this are acutely aware of that at this point. And since the book came out, I was very worried when the book came out that maybe it was a bit too far, because I cited a whole lot of worst case scenarios. And that was intentional, because the worst case climate projections continue to be outpaced by observational reality. And so I would say now, as dramatic as the climate book was when it came out, it's you could even go further now based on what we've seen in just the last 4 years since it was published. Rather than getting into a lot of the climate impacts, beyond just saying things have accelerated, they continue to accelerate, and we are in the midst of radical changes, and it's still just getting started. The way I ended that book was, I was in a place of great despair, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to be, having all this information, not knowing what to do with it. And towards the end of the book is when I met a dear, dear friend of mine, Stan Rushworth, and he started sharing with me Indigenous stories. He's of Indigenous heritage, and those stories helped really set the ball rolling for basically a way that I would ultimately learn how to comport myself. And the first main thing he shared with me was the importance of listening. I was doing a lot of talking, I was doing a lot of writing and a lot of publishing, and I needed to just really hone in on my listening skills, and particularly to that of the earth. And one story I'm going to read, it's not long, but towards the end of the book, that I'd like to read, and it came from one of Stan's teachers, a man named Dr. Daryl Wilson. who was born into what's often called the Pitt River Nation today of Northeastern California. And Wilson told the story of Mies Misa, a small but powerful spirit that inhabits Akuyet, which is what white men call the white man named Mount Shasta. Mies Misa is a spirit force that balances the earth with the universe and the universe with the earth. Wilson said that Akuyet is, quote, the most necessary of all the mountains on earth, because Mies Misa keeps the earth the proper distance from the sun and keeps everything in its proper place when wonder and power stir everything, stir the universe with a giant yet invisible canoe paddle. Mies Misa keeps the earth from wandering away from the rest of the universe. It maintains the proper seasons and the proper atmosphere for life to flourish as Earth changes seasons on its journey around the sun. The mountain, the story tells us, must be worshiped because Mies Misa dwells deep within it. To climb the mountain with a pure heart and with real resolve, and to communicate with all of the light and all of the darkness of the universe, is to place your spirit in a direct line from the songs of Mies Misa to the heart of the universe. While in this posture, the spirit of man/woman is in perfect balance and harmony, end quote. For as long as Mies Misa's instructions are followed with sincerity, society will be sustained. Its inhabitants will survive for the long term. Quote, the most important of all the lessons, it is said, is to be so quiet in your being that you constantly hear the soft singing of Mies Misa, end quote. But the story also warns that by not listening to Mies Misa's song, the song will fade. Mies Misa will depart, and the earth and all the societies upon earth will be out of balance, and life therein vulnerable to extinction. And that story, to me, really underscored, again, the necessity and the deep importance of really, really deep listening to the earth. And that means listening to all things and all beings. And only by being that quiet and listening that intently was I really able to start kind of hearing and hear what in my heart, what I might need to do during this time, you know. And it came down to really, how am I going to comport myself? And I had to start learning how to, and I guess I share all this just to offer people, because I know there's a lot of despair out there, and to kind of offer as a tool something that really helped me. And it was really to find that way to comport myself. And I learned that, you know, in dominant Western culture, there's the idea of what are my rights? I have my rights, and I get upset if those aren't respected. But in a more indigenous perspective, I was taught is that we are born with two primary obligations: one, to be stewards of the earth and care for the earth, and two, to work in service to future generations of all species. And so if I really take as my own epistemology those obligations, then that's my work to do. And those actions are not contingent upon whatever the result might be, whether we win or lose, succeed or fail. No matter what, those are my obligations, i.e., that is how I'm going to choose to comport myself during this time and going forward. And ultimately, it is in service to the planet and to all beings. And the other thing that I wanted to offer up, and I think this is really what I'll end my part of this presentation with, is Stan, who I mentioned earlier. He and I went on to co-edit a book called We Are the Middle of Forever. And in that book, we interviewed 20 different indigenous people from Turtle Island. And one of those people was an indigenous scholar from the United States named Kyle White. And he wrote magnificently about kinship. And I would just like to read some of his words as a way to end my offering to this presentation on this special day. Dr. White said, quote, and this is all his words, if you look at reciprocity, trust, consent, transparency, privacy, or confidentiality, these are all what I call the qualities of relationships we have with each other. And they're a key aspect to what I would call a part of kinship. Kinship is a certain type of relationship that we all have with each other. No matter what society you live in, there's going to be some degree of kinship. It just might look different or be exercised differently, or it could even be lacking or particularly strong in some societies as opposed to others. But kinship refers to relationships of mutual responsibility, where we care for each other and we create bonds with each other that make it so that regardless of what the law says, and regardless of how severe a problem is, or regardless of what our rights are, we have an abiding sense that we need to care for others. We need to be responsible for each other. And that's not just confined to the human-to-human context, but depending on the culture, to all living beings and non-living entities and systems. So responsibility is a really important way of understanding kinship. Responsibility is a type of relationship. As we know, because we have a responsibility in relation to somebody else, that's a shared responsibility, but it's going to work. It's only going to work if each of us has a profound respect for reciprocity, for consent, for trust, for transparency, and for confidentiality. You can only really have a responsibility that's working and functioning if you have these qualities. Thank you.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. I need you to unmute, Mitchell. And you know what's interesting? One of the people that I met yesterday turned me on to that beautiful website of Kinship Earth. And since he just spoke about kinship, I'm bringing that website up. It's new, and I know that this is your friend who created Kinship Earth.
Sure. Sure. In fact, I was down in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, a couple of years ago with Steve Gomes to visit Susan Davis, who is the founder of the KINS Network. And that the whole idea behind that was to gather together people. She was actually a banker. She was a very dear friend, by the way, of Hazel Henderson, who, if I may take one moment, I know you've had her on the Global Peace Tribe. She's a very dear friend of mine for the past, 7 or so years. I was on her global advisory board, and we were really very, very close. And I miss her to this moment, but I really would like to take a moment on this Earth Day. She's been on prior Earth Day events that I have sponsored and produced and hosted. And to just honor Hazel Henderson, futurist, green economist, and woman who has done so much in front of and behind the scenes to make the world a better place, to bring a kind of a green, renewable energy consciousness forward, and to help to transform our relationship to money and the economy. So to Hazel Henderson, a beautiful woman who has just completely devoted her life to the upgrade of our planet. So thank you, Hazel. Been greatly impactful.
I'm actually just in honoring of her. I'm putting into the chat box right now the link on YouTube to the show that we had Hazel on, and it was actually in conjunction with 11 Days of Unity. It was it was a show that we did on September 11th, 2021. And Hazel's on the show along with Michael Beckwith and Rabbi Michael Lerner, Kurt Johnson.
Beautiful.
And Andrew Harvey was our keynote speaker.
Oh, yes. I know Andrew well.
Yep. So
sure. That's beautiful. I
I
wish you had invited me to join everybody. They're all friends. They're all friends. So
separated at birth. There we go again.
There we go. Next time. But just to continue with this little piece here about Kinship Earth, we went down, Steve, myself, Lauren Archer, who's now the executive director, to spend some time with Susan Davis and her husband, biodynamic farmer Walter Mora. And we were involved there with the promulgation of the ideas of social entrepreneurship to bring the Ecuadorians this notion of doing well by doing good, which is at the heart of the social entrepreneur visionary. And also we were actually dealing with a cryptocurrency that's all about creating a regenerative economy. It's actually not about making money. It's about having a token as a method of exchange and communication and energy exchange that would build regenerative agricultural practices and the like. And it was a very powerful, wonderful time together. And out of that largely came this Kinship Earth project. So just
beautiful.
Sharing with you. You know, I'll put a thing or two also into the chat of my interviews with Hazel, and people may enjoy.
Absolutely. And let's just take a moment of silence as we appreciate Hazel
Let's
Henderson,
do it.
who just had a passage.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Hazel. It's time for some more music, and we're going to go to our beloved songstress who has plucked another song from the sky or from the earth. Where did this song come from, Destiny?
This one actually came straight from a dream, which is pretty rare. It's now only happened twice. And it's happened more that there's been songs, but that I've been able to get it down in time. So this one came from a dream, and it felt like a really powerful message from the mother of us all. So listen and receive the poem from the dream time, which is, you know, if we tune into the bigger dream of us, of humanity, what our bigger dream is, our shared dream is rising up together, is a world where we're all mutually benefiting, where there's reciprocity, sacred reciprocity, where our hearts are open and we're living in synergistic ways with in balance with the elements and with the earth. So this song is about being able to bend with these times, and that even though sometimes and might feel like it's breaking us, but just to let it break us open into even closer to why we came here, which is to bring a great wave of healing and awakening. So. I cast my fears aside, with my heart open wide. I will not break, and if I do, I will be mended. I will bend, I will bend, I will bend, I will bend, I will bend like weeping willow. I will bend, I will bend, I will bend, I will bend, I will bend. And if I break, I will be mended. In my yesterdays I cried, but I dug deep down inside and found the way. I found the way to break through. Yeah, you will break through. You will get through too, yeah. And if you break, yeah, my dear, you will be mended. each other, as we tend to the mother, there is space. If we choose to remember, that we will bend, we will bend, we will bend, we will bend, we will bend. Like a weeping willow, we will bend, we will bend, we will bend, we will bend, we will bend. And if we break, we will be mended. Tina.
Mm. May we all bend. May we be like bamboo.
Seriously, learn to bend and trust that sometimes obstacles are put in our way so that we can grow and really move into why we're here. You know, like what is my legacy? Why am I here as a soul? There's a lot of letting go. There's a lot of healing. And as we do our own inner work and get to know ourselves and who we truly are and what we're made of, and that we are made of this beautiful tapestry of elements. we are the child of the earth, the child of the sun. And as we step deeper and deeper into that and keep making life choices in more and more alignment with what we value, we are that powerful. We create a ripple of benefit of all, and that's how we rise up together into the heavenly realms. We can raise the frequency of this home that we share together, and that's our birthright. That's how powerful we are. So thank you for hearing my voice and remembering that we have the power to be kind. We have the power to smile and breathe. We have the power to relax and to trust. And if there's things clogging that in our lives, right, that we have the power to make changes. And so may we make changes in ways that uplift and benefit everyone. Thank you.
Destiny, you really do represent the next generation. And now you're raising still another generation, right? Which is really cool. But you speak with such wisdom and such love. And I do want to let people know that Destiny has a wonderful offering. She does clarity coaching and embodied voice healing. You can learn all about it by going to this website. I just put the link into the chat box. Or for those watching on Facebook, DestinyMarieLove.com. DestinyMarieLove.com. You can reclaim your voice, declare your wholeness, activate your life. Tell us about what it's like for you. Like, who are the people, like kind of your demographic group? Who do you most enjoy working with? And what happens when somebody reaches out to you?
Yeah, who I most resonate working with who are attracted to working with me are people who are in life transition, who feel that call or feel that movement of going through kind of, we could call it like a death portal. Someone has died, something in their life has ended, and there's an opportunity to have a rebirth in this lifetime, to step even deeper into the soul's path, the calling, the vision, your destiny, however you call it. So for those who feel like having a spiritual midwife to hold the hand and say, you've got this, and what did you really come here for? So it's time to let go of a lot of things if we're really to step into what we've come here for, right, Scott?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I strongly encourage people to reach out to Destiny. And I guess best way is through your website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Mhm.
Okay. And again, that's destinymarielove.com. I'll put it in the chat box one more time. And thank you for working us in. I know you have another gig, another event tonight to go to. So thank you for bringing us in, and I love you so much. And please give my best to Andrew. And I look forward to being with you in Ashland, Oregon
Yeah.
in about 5 weeks.
Amazing. Yeah, we look forward to having you. We're living now on a permaculture farm, and that's part of the letting go I'm talking about, Scott. And I'll speak 2 minutes on it if it's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Um, 2 years ago, we were called to let go of everything, and it was a very strong call. And I felt a message from my soul. It was like, I don't feel sparked. I don't feel my soul. Like there's something I feel clogged up. You know, when I look around, the things in my environment, in my home, they're not full of life. I'm ready for a change. So the family was on board, and we got rid of practically everything. We kept 8 bins, and we went to Hawaii, and we lived on a permaculture cacao farm for a year. Amazing, amazing. And then we just continued that journey to North Carolina. We landed on another permaculture farm. Everyone was homeschooling the children. I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. And we had 10 children together, homeschooling together for 4 months, gardening, sacred spring waters, doing really good work. Then we went to Mexico and went down to visit this land for a new regenerative community there in Mexico. And it's not quite happening yet, but maybe a couple years out. And now we were called back to Ashland again on another permaculture property where there's eco building happening, and people really masters of how to grow food and how to catch energy, catch energy from the sun, catch energy from the water. Life is so abundant. The mother of us all is providing everything. If we can just tap into our creativity, use our brains, and stop being so reliant on easy convenience, because it actually deadens us. We have to get out there, plant some food, take some action. It's simple. Put some seeds in the ground. Say thank you to the water source. Find out what your water source is. Take care of it. And that's my spiel.
It's a great spiel, and it's why I wanted you to be on Earth Day, because you are really living. You represent the future. You are living spirit guided. You are raising children. You are, planting. You're in the earth, and that is really where we all need to go. So it's beautiful. And you're in Ashland, where the Twin Ray are, who are 2 of our favorite spiritual teachers. So Ashland is definitely one of the places on my list of probable next locations. So
I'm so excited to see you in a couple weeks, Scott.
I look forward to.
And just want to piggyback on that one more thing is not everyone's going to be living on a permaculture farm and let go of everything and but you find your way. It's like following a golden string. It just brings us closer and closer. Each choice we make, is this choice in alignment with the greater good of all? Thank you.
Thank you for being a wonderful example of next generation, and give my love to Andrew. Okay.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you. Well, Mitchell, we go from youth, she really represents the next generation. And now we go to one of the great elders of the environmental movement, our wonderful friend, Duane Elgin. I was with Duane at the Holy Movement Conference. And I need you to unmute, Mitchell, and share with us a little bit about beautiful, beloved brother, Duane Elgin.
I heard it was you, Duane, and your dog.
Yes. Duane
Interesting trio.
With Jasmine Bear. I'll pull up maybe photos during his talk.
Yes,
yes. They spent so much time together, and he lets her lick her, and they had a love affair. It was very beautiful.
That's beautiful. That's an expression of Duane's multifaceted heart.
Yeah, a big heart,
right?
So wise.
So
So
I
I've got it queued up. Just tell us,
sure,
introduce it, and then I'll play when you say play.
sure, okay. Duane and I met a number of years ago. We are also since then members with you in the Evolutionary Leader Circle. I interviewed Duane originally in his living room in Sebastopol, frankly, for his book, The Living Universe. And he's such a beautiful soul. He's so full of stories about the media, about the environment, about doing good. He was one of the founders, if not the founder, of the voluntary simplicity movement, which most people don't even know about, but that started in the 1970s, where it was sort of a plea, an invitation to people saying, hey, do you really need all these things? Or as George Carlin would refer to it as all this stuff. And we go out and we get a house just to put in our stuff, and we live and travel with our stuff. Well, Duane was onto that long before that little talk about spiel. And he's been on that path ever since of things that we can do to properly affect, be proper with ourselves, in our lives, in alignment with Earth, with each other. And so as a result, Duane is one of the great teachers of our time. He won an award called the GAIA Award in Japan for his high-level work. He's the author of numerous books. The last book I interviewed him on was Choosing Earth, and I had him and his lovely wife, Colleen, who's a filmmaker, on talking about it. She's made a documentary of this book, and he's just truly one of the great gifts. He's wise, he's funny, he's engaged, and he just so deeply cares. He's just so involved, Scott, in the stuff of the world, meaning the higher stuff in that case, and the meaning of being in action. So with that, I think maybe we can hit the play button. Friend.
Mitchell, yes. So good to be with you, and to be preceded by these wonderful guests that you have. And I want to start there. First of all, Chief Phil Lane. Wow, every time I hear this man, I am so moved. I'm so grounded in recognition of the aliveness of the universe, of the earth, of reality. And he's calling that forth from us. And then Dar with his powerful communications about the indigenous worldview and how the world is seen as a living system from the indigenous mindset. And I feel that what's happening right now in the world, we're being called from a dead to a living universe, if you will, from a dead to a living earth. And in a nutshell, if we think we're living in a place of essentially dead matter and empty space, we're going to exploit it. And that exploitive mindset is something that we've been carrying forth for the last 300 years or so here in the Western world. And if we're going to move as Chief Phil Lane said, as Dar was spoken, we need to be co-responsible. We need to be in kinship with all of life. And if we're in kinship with it, we'll take care of it. We'll be in reverent regard for all of life. And so this is a foundational shift in the mindset of the world, of humanity, to take care of all that is alive, and it is the entire living earth. And we have a co-responsibility to do that. Now, how does that happen? And let me share with you briefly a question I've presented to audiences around the world. And I've often begun a talk by asking an audience a question. Surprising. What? You're going to ask us a question, not talk to us? Yes. And the question is a simple one. The question is this: If you look at the whole human family, and we're all in this together, if you look at the whole human family, what do we look like? Do we look like toddlers as you look at our behavior? Teenagers, adolescents? Are we behaving like adolescents? Are we behaving like beings in their early adulthood, or lastly, elders? So I give people 4 choices: toddlers, teenagers, adults, or elders. How are we behaving? And I ask them to turn to someone they've never met, talk about that for a few minutes, and then take a vote. Now, I've asked this question literally around the world. I've asked it in all kinds of settings: business leaders, colleges, religious institutions, and so on. And overwhelmingly, one answer comes back. For the last 30 years, one answer has come back. And people have said, well, we're behaving like teenagers, like adolescents. Typically, 3/4 of an audience will say, yes, we're behaving like adolescents. And I say to them, hey, that's good news, because despite the behaviors of adolescents that tend to regard things as something to be exploited, the adult says, no, it's our job to be co-responsible, in kinship with the world, and to regard it in its wholeness, and not exploit it, but to care for it. And so if we are now in our adolescence as a species, it's just a small step towards our early adulthood, and caring for the earth, caring for one another, caring for the well-being of all life, not just human life, but all life. So we can make the small step into our early adulthood and care for the well-being of the earth. It will begin to really acknowledge and see it as a living earth, a living system. That comes from our indigenous mindset. That's the heritage that we arrived here with, and it's only been in the last few hundred years that we've had this mindset that it is essentially dead matter, empty space to be exploited. Now we're in a process of return, a recovery, this deep original wisdom that we had, that it's all alive. And if it's alive, well, then care for it.
Oh, so beautiful. You make me laugh, because I thought we were somewhere between toddler and adolescent. So half right, half wrong. But no, that's a beautiful framing, Duane. And I think it's really important, because it does help us take responsibility. And there's another thing that you are making clear, which is when we look at the world as purely material, so that we have thingified, if you will, we have nominalized the earth. It's a thing that we can, as you said, for the last 300 years, and I would argue for much longer, can do things to and extract from.
Yes.
Distinct from the indigenous view and the heartfelt view, which is live with, harmonize with, love, steward. And so you've got the material view, if you will, on one hand, and what we refer rather generically as a spiritual view, a view that has a sense that's higher, that's deeper, that's heartfelt, called the spiritual view, you know.
Yes.
And that's what connects us to all life, which you are so clearly pleading for in all your comments. And I think that's right, absolutely right on. I'd like to ask you, if I may, with all the work that you have done, and your last book, Choosing Earth, is a true treatise that takes us into the depths of despair, not unlike Dar Jamal's The End of Ice. But it also shows a curve of us from adolescence moving actually towards some level of emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and personal development. Could you comment on that, so we can kind of go on that journey?
Yes, indeed I can. Now, so then if you ask people, well, what was it that motivated you to move from your personal adolescence and into your early adulthood? And then I asked them to turn to someone and, well, share one of the most painful, difficult experiences of your life with another person. And what they talk about is trauma. They talk about wounding, being wounded by the experience of being an adolescent and so on. Now, that trauma is a catalyst for transformation. And there's not one of us, I would think, that has moved from adolescence to adulthood without some degree of trauma, with some degree of wounding. And so here we are living on a wounded earth, an earth that's traumatized, and not only humanity as being traumatized, but all of life. We're in the middle of the sixth greatest extinction that the earth has ever known. So this trauma, this wounding of the earth is our catalyst. It's a sacred catalyst for awakening. And with that, we can then begin to open ourselves, because the wound is really an opening into a larger reality, into then a larger maturity, a larger sense of caring for the well-being of all life, recognizing the preciousness of our own life, and then moving into the preciousness of all life. So what's happening now is it's so important to go beyond just a problem with climate change. That's certainly a big issue. It's a big concern, but it's a material concern. And what we're speaking about here with Phil Lane, Chief Lane, called from us was a spiritual regard, a regard for the deeper aliveness that we are wounding with our actions. So if we begin to see what's happening to the earth as a whole systems crisis. It's a crisis of climate. It's a crisis of population growth that cannot be sustained with current levels of consumption. It's a crisis of resources, water, for heaven's sakes, for people around the earth. Around 30 to 40% of the people don't have enough water. We can just go on down this list of wounds that the earth is now experiencing and say, these are the catalysts. Pay attention. It isn't just climate, it's the whole thing is coming apart. It's breaking down. We're on the verge of collapse, but that collapse is then the collapse of the old way of regarding ourselves, the old way of regarding the earth. And when that collapses, then we open up and we say, well, now what? Now what do we do? Well, we step forward in our maturity and we say, instead of exploiting the earth, now is the time to be co-responsible caretakers of this wounded earth. So this is a very difficult time we're moving into right now. But the wounds are wounds of the spirit to awaken the soul of humanity, to move into a world of aliveness that we will then be soulfully drawn to care for.
Yep. So beautifully put. You know, on one hand, we just were discussing, Duane, the distinction between the material and the spiritual. And in what you're saying about woundedness brings me back to the Jungian psychology perspective of the role of archetype. And I say that in light of the idea of woundedness, because all healers archetypally have been wounded beings. And it's actually through that wound that they learn about healing. They learn about the material, if you will, technique of healing, but they learn about the empathy that's needed to be a healer because they have experienced their own wound. So it's very interesting because just as we said, material and spiritual, there's also the micro and the macro. So on the one hand, we have our own personal dilemmas and trauma and wounds, and those help us mature, as you're so well putting it, to become caretakers of the larger planet on the macro, if you will, macro level. Does that harmonize and resonate with?
It does. I think a theme that's already come up so strongly in the conversation so far is kinship, is care as a co-responsible participants on this wounded world. And so indeed, we are moving into a new relationship with the earth, but the earth as a living, system. And underneath the earth, the universe as itself a living system. Life within life
Sounds
within
like the
life.
name of a good book, by the way.
Yes. The
That's a
living
book
universe.
that Duane wrote, by the way.
Yes, indeed. And so if we'll just open to the world as it is, the universe as it is, the earth as it is, it's alive, it's alive. And in that aliveness, we come alive. And if we try to exploit it as deadness, we die as well. So in this transition, in this shift to our maturity, to our openness, to accepting the wounded world that we have created, and then open up, we're going to open up into greater aliveness. And instead of moving into a time of death and destruction and so on, those traumas are the traumas to catalyze our awakening into a higher maturity, a higher connection, a higher kinship with the well-being of all life.
So beautifully put. I'd like to ask you a question, because as you're speaking, and because I know the book you last wrote, Choosing Earth, you did an extensive interview, and you and Colleen, your wife, filmmaker, you really go out far in time to describe what you see as the story of personal human development. And it's very moving in many ways. It's upsetting, and ultimately it's puts a smile on your face. It's daring in that way, but it happens. But you know, the longer arc of history, if you will, shows us that civilizations come and they go. How many times do we have to see Egypt, Greece, Rome, and on the other side of the world, China came and went, and now, of course, is coming back. So there are cycles, in short. And so in that light, there's creation and destruction. What do you see? And that seems to happen by nature. Yet there is this thing, this phenomenon referred to as human will and human choice. What do you see as the role of these in this larger arc of creation and destruction?
I'm sorry, the role of, say that again?
The role of the human role of choice and human will in this longer arc of creation and destruction. Is that too much?
No, because we are co-responsible participants on this earth. And it isn't just the affluent countries, nations, it's all of us. We're all in this together. We either rise together or we fall together. And there's a tendency right now to look at, well, who's in, who's out in terms of resources, who's going to endure, who's going to die. We're all in this together. And if you look at the seriousness of the challenges that we face, it isn't just a climate problem, as I indicated. It is a whole systems problem.
Yes.
And we could go functionally extinct, not completely extinct, but for all practical purposes, give up our role in an evolutionary sense for the future of the earth. And so it's going to take us rising up together. We're all in this together. It is right now, I tell people, look, see this the mobile phone, 2/3 of the people on this planet now have access to one of these. 2/3. By the end of this decade, just a few years from now, it'll be 3/4. And if there was ever a need to talk, it's now. We either talk together as a species, as a human family, or we fight. And we're fighting right now. We're going to be deepening into conflict. It's time to talk. It's time to we hold the future in our hands. So it isn't that we have to turn to some faraway billionaire corporation, government, or whatever. It's us. We're the new superpower on this planet is us holding cell phones in our hands. We finally have the capacity, the technological capacity to talk to one another, to give the earth a voice, to have an earth voice for humanity's future. So returning to your question, yes, well, it's our responsibility and it's our opportunity to rise to this possibility.
Duane Elgin, as usual, you wow me. You wow me. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Bless you, brother.
He is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Truly.
Yeah, yeah.
So articulate, so heartfelt, so wise.
Well, I think it's time to have some live music to digest.
Yeah.
And we have not heard from Omashar. And usually by now, Omashar usually does our opening song. But of course, we went with our wonderful Destiny today. But it is Destiny to now turn to Omashar.
I know. I went with the flow, and how beautiful to have Destiny's energy amongst us tonight. I've witnessed her a couple of times, but tonight I really felt her. She's become so clear that clarity just, it's like a crystal glass sparks the clarity in myself. And so happy Earth Day, everybody, and at least Earth Day, everybody. It's not happy for everybody, but within our hearts is happy. And let's move and groove to this one. Slow waltz, Eleanor. Change your heart and look around you. Change your heart, it will astound you. Because I need your loving like the sunshine. Everybody's coming home sometime. Everybody's coming home sometime. Everyone's coming home sometime. Free your mind from limitation. And fill your life with inspiration. Because we all need loving like the sunshine. Everybody's gotta learn sometime. Everybody's got to learn sometime. Everyone's gotta learn sometime. Oh, oh, oh. Change your heart
look around you. Change your heart, it will astound you. Because I need your loving, like the sunshine. And everybody's coming home sometime. Everybody's coming home sometime. Everybody's got to learn sometime. Change your heart.
Let's all go to gallery view for a moment, everybody, and twinkle our beloved Omashar. Wow, thank you so much. Time to turn on my light. I think it's getting dark out. There we go.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, here I am. Well, we will, of course, have more Omashar a little bit later on. I think this was your first experience hearing Omashar, Mitchell.
It is, and I'm absorbing of it on a cellular level. Thank you so much, Omashar. Beautiful, beautiful music.
Well, of course, we are going to, we have Lynne Twist next. And Lynne, of course, has been on this show many, many times. I guess what I just want to say about Lynne is my favorite nonprofit organization is the Pachamama Foundation, the Pachamama Alliance. And it's a brilliant organization. She's an amazing soul. Of course, she wrote The Soul of Money and helped us change our relationship to money. And now she's really helping us to change our relationship to the planet and to the way that we see indigenous wisdom. What would you like to share about your experience of Lynne?
Oh, God. You know, to list her credentials would take all night, Scott. So I'd rather bypass that because they're phenomenal. But she really is a global thought leader and visionary. She's been on this path since the 70s, really, that I know of, with beginning with the Hunger Project.
Yeah.
And going around the world and raising what became hundreds of millions of dollars on behalf of the Hunger Project that declared the end of hunger by the year 2000, which was very bold in the early mid 70s. And, you know, it's so interesting. It's so such a learning in itself, because world hunger did not end in the year 2000. But boy, after having made that powerful commitment and declaration, they got real close.
Mm.
And I think that's the lesson for us to gather from it, that yes, we want a result, and they got a result. It wasn't a result they were looking for 100%, but you know what? If you get to 85 or 90, boy, is that good. So that, you know, is emblematic of Lynne. Reversing global warming right now is the big thing, a la Paul Hawken and Drawdown, who gives us a list, and stuff I was saying in our Earth Day event last night of reversing global warming through the use of regenerative agriculture and the others that we'll be seeing soon. And we go deep into this idea of a geosponge. Well, Lynne is on that path, and watch out, because she's serious about it. And a lot of us are right alongside, shoulder to shoulder with her, you, myself, and so many others around the planet. So for me, Lynne is a heartfelt, wonderful spiritual warrior. And I'm so glad that she's chosen to champion our beautiful Mother Earth. That's the thing to do.
Beautiful. Well, here's your conversation with Lynne Twist.
Lynne Twist, who has been a guest on the show actually a number of times, going back to her publication of the book, The Soul of Money, in 2008. So it's really a pleasure to have Lynne back. A few words about her, because she's got such an extraordinary background and ongoing career. She is, as many of you know, a global visionary. And
I'm going to go past this because we just did a beautiful introduction of her.
Yeah. To a better world. A pleasure as always to have you.
Thank you, Mitch. It's wonderful to be back. Thank you.
So glad. So because we're also doubling, if you will, for this interview for a better world and Earth Day coming up soon, I'd love to hear you talk about, if you would start with the Pachamama Alliance, because so much of what we do on Earth Day is to honor Mother Earth, Gaia, Pachamama, and to talk about the things that we can do to help reduce the carbon footprint and create a world of a restored Mother Nature, the way we kind of grew up with. So I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'll just say that it's a pleasure to be on your show, and it's a pleasure to celebrate Earth Day 2023. I think this is I'm having this experience of 2023, and it may or may not be true for others, but I'm certainly finding it in my own life and in the path that I walk. There's a surge of power right now around really addressing seriously and authentically and powerfully and effectively the climate crisis. And there's no arguments anymore. There's no jockeying back and forth that used to be in the forefront. That kind of stuff still exists, but it's in the background. It's in the noise in the background. It's kind of white noise now. No one takes it seriously. Everybody's about how to get on the playing field and really play your heart out. And I find that to be true not only for individuals, which is really the key, as you and I both know, but also really also institutions, universities and colleges are always the first to be on the cutting edge of things like this as institutions, but also companies now, companies that at least I'm familiar with. It might be that they're terrified, whatever the reason. It might be that they're now ready to play. It might be that they're so scared about the bottom line that they have to get in the game. Whatever the motivation, fine, they're playing. And that is something I haven't seen at the level I've seen it in 2023. So I feel like there's a surge of power, actually collaboration, as contentious and, kind of finger pointing as our political landscape is. The collaborative space for humans, and when I mean that, the word civilization has the same root as civil society. We're actually beginning to be civilized about dealing with who we are as a species on this planet, and that we're taking up way more than our share, and that we need to share this with each other first and foremost, but also with the community of life. That it's not just white supremacy, European supremacy, all these different supremacies, patriarchal supremacies, colonial supremacies. It's human supremacy. That's where it all began. And so I feel that there's maybe it's not as conscious as I'd like to make it, but I want to at least assert, and in my own way, a mark that we're now in the 2020s in a way that we actually are on the playing field for real. And we need to be, of course. Yes, it's late. Yes, we're not going fast enough. Yes, not everybody is playing fair. Yes, all that's still true. And we can talk about that, but it wastes so much time to argue about that. What we need to do is acknowledge, celebrate, lock arms, hold hands, and move forward in whatever way is yours to do it. So for me, having published a book called Living a Committed Life at the end of last year and the beginning of this, I feel commitment starting to actually find its way into people's hearts and in their speech, so that we're not so much talking about how many degrees of Celsius or Fahrenheit or all of the terms that sort of leave it to the scientists and the analysis, terms that don't get you in action, but terms that do get you in action. Like, we're losing the very life support system on which we and our future children and grandchildren depend. We are losing species that are dear to us, that we love. We are finding our way to see that these weather patterns that are so extreme are not going to stop, and actually are forcing us to pay attention to our environment, to not just the weather report on TV, but be outside and look at the trees and look at the landscape and look at where are the insects and where are the flowers, and
Our
really pay
personal
attention to the
relationship.
power of spring.
Personal relationship to the earth as a living being, you're saying. So
Yes.
not
Yeah.
just objective analysis, which, as you say, doesn't really move the dial far. But
Yeah.
when we think about our personal relationship with trees and with animals so much, that it becomes very real what we're losing and what's at stake. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to emphasize that point you're making.
Yeah, and that unleashes the power of love. Not analysis, not fear, not, oh my God, not we'll do the best we can, not resignation, not despair. It unleashes the power of love. And that's what will get us through, as Joanna Macy says. We will protect what we love. And that's really where we need to, I would say need is probably too strong. That's just my opinion. But where I suggest, I recommend, I invite, I encourage people to go, what do you love about this world? What do you love about this life? What do you love about this earth? What do you love about the community of life that we share? What do you love about plants? What do you love about food? What do you love about, your puppy dog and your kitty cat, your chickens? What do you love? And go to work for that, go to bat for that. And that's where it starts to be ours rather than out there, something we're worried about and trying to, be afraid of or protect ourselves from, or go off and buy a little island or hole up in our houses and hope we'll be okay.
Yeah.
That individuation, that isolation is not the way forward. The way forward is toward each other, turning toward each other, embracing each other, community. So I find that to be a very, very, very powerful tide turning experience I'm having in 2023.
Oh, that is beautiful. I mean, from your mouth to God's ears, of course. And honestly, I see the same thing. In fact, just minutes before we met here, I sent out an email about investors. You were talking about even businesses are looking at the situation now and are getting into action in a way that never was the case before. They were always in the denial mode. And this was an email about investors pushing companies to get into action and to develop a green halo by doing the right thing, reducing pollution, reducing the carbon footprint. So you know that when something like that is in motion, you've come a far way, as they say.
Yeah.
So, we're really in the mode. Tell us a little bit. I love what you shared that, and that you connect it to love, Lynn, is really kind of where it's at. Because that's what our lives are so much about. And if they're not about it, we want it to be about it.
Yes.
And so if we put that front and center of our relationship with our beautiful Mother Earth, then we're really going to be making strides. So I love the way you put that. Would you talk a little bit about Pachamama and what the Alliance is doing in respect to you and Bill, your husband, and the whole team have been doing fabulous things down in the headwaters and elsewhere. Could you chat a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, as you know so well, Mitch, Pachamama means Mother Earth, or the earth, the sky, the universe, and all time. And the Pachamama Alliance is an alliance between the indigenous people of the sacred headwaters region of the Amazon rainforest, which is the source of the whole Amazon forest, indigenous people that live in that area, and conscious, committed people in the modern world like you and me and all the people who would choose to listen to your wonderful podcast for the sustainability of life. And so we have a two-pronged approach. We work with the indigenous people of the Amazon and empower them to protect their land, their culture, their way of life, not only for themselves, but for the future of life, which is where they're standing. And we empower people like you and me and all these listeners that are drawn to your show to build a better world, just like the name of your show, through understanding the role that we each have to play to wake up from the trance, to pierce through apathy and resignation, to get on the playing field and find our way to effective action, and to stay inspired and to keep generating the possibility and keep the opening open so that we walk a path from where we are now to ending the climate crisis, really ending it, not mitigating it, not adapting to it, not being afraid of it, not withdrawing from it, but actually going toward the crisis, realizing it is feedback from the mother, from the earth. It's very powerful, in some ways very harsh feedback, designed really or intended to have us wake up from the trance that we've been in for so long and become consistent and concomitant with our own humanity and the sustainability of life. So our programs, the Pachamama Alliance programs, all online, all free, all accessible, help each and every one of us to shift our mindset from unconscious habits and ways of being that are ultimately destructive to life to conscious practices that sustain, restore, and regenerate life. And that is exactly what's needed. Pachamama Alliance takes its lessons from the indigenous people quite seriously, that we really just change the way we see the world. It's not just what we say, what we do, but the way we see it all. And that's our work. And in the Ecuadorian and Peruvian Amazon, which is where the sacred headwaters are, we work with 30 nations, 30 indigenous nations and 2 nationalities, Ecuador and Peru, to create a permanent protected area, about 88 million acres, where the Amazon rainforest begins and where it's sourced from, that primarily, not totally, but primarily is roadless and pristine and must stay that way. And that is a huge undertaking on our part. There isn't a place on earth that is in permanent protected status, but if there is, and when there is, not if, our goal is that it is this particular place, which resourced life after the Pleistocene era and can do it again. And then to awaken from the slumbering Armageddon, kind of trance we're in with consumerism and more of everything and just individuating and taking care of us, ourselves and our loved ones and keeping ourselves safe. Yeah. And breaking that open to realize there's no way we're going to make it if we behave that way with each other. It's an all hands on deck, hold hands, link arms, embrace each other, work together. This is a co-labor, collaboration with men, women, and all generations. We've never had so many generations working together in the history of the world and on the playing field. As you know from our event that you attended in New York, people in the age group that I'm in and what most people would be called the elders, often are by my age off in Florida or Palm Springs or Hawaii playing golf. Now, there are people doing that and God bless them, but there's a whole lot of us who are not doing that. We are refiring rather than retiring, and we are walking alongside of the Gen Zs, the Gen Xs, the millennials, the middle-aged people. We are on the playing field with our wisdom, our experience, and our perseverance, and we will not stop until it turns around.
Commitment, your commitment that doesn't stop.
That's right.
The refire. I love that refiring instead of retiring.
That is just so brilliant. So everybody, and I know we have a lot of people that are at what used to be known as retirement age. I'm 67. We are not retiring. We are refiring.
Firing,
I love that.
exactly.
I love that. You know, one of the things that Mitchell and I discovered is we both taught the Awakening Dreamer course back in the day.
Yes.
And everybody, I really do want to encourage you. Please go to this, it's pachamama.org, pachamama.org, and definitely join, donate. There's wonderful, wonderful courses. I'm blessed because I live in the Bay Area. Once a year, Pachamama has its big annual event in November. We fill up Fort Mason, 1,200 people there. Of course, Lynn and Bill, and it's always one of the great events of the year, really. And so
We do it, Scott, in New York also, and I play a role in filling the place up right by the Hudson River. It's beautiful. They have a great time. They often bring representatives of the Achuar Native community, probably also out in San Francisco, and we just have a ball together, just celebrating the good work Pachamama is doing. Just
one
as
of the,
you're saying.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they always bring people from Achuar. And one of the things that's great about the Pachamama Alliance, like she said, it's an alliance. We need the wisdom of the indigenous people. We're not the great white hope marching down there telling them, you know, here's a better cell phone. But instead we need their wisdom.
Yes.
You know, quick
But,
story.
you know, it should be said that there's a mutuality and a reciprocity, because we have things they do not, they have what we do not. So it's a true marriage, if you will, you know, and it's nice to see it that way. You know, it's not a one-way street, it's two-way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are now going to play the video of the Holo movement by our beloved Kristen Hoffman. And I have to say that our Awakening World audience has seen this because it had its world premiere when I was in Sedona during the Evolutionary Leaders Network gathering. Kristen gave it to me and we did play it on the Awakening World, but it is such a profound video. It's so important. And again, for everybody, the Holo movement is something that both Mitchell and I are very involved in, with the Synergy movement, with the Evolutionary Leaders Network.
Circles. Yeah.
We're all coming together, and you're going to be hearing a lot about the Holo movement. Kristen is going to be live. She's going to be a co-host next week, Mitchell. Next week, we're celebrating our anniversary. And so she'll be sitting in your chair. She'll be co-hosting with me.
I love it.
Excited about. But let's, I'm going to go to anything you want to add about Kristen or the video?
Wow. Well, you know, Kristen and I know each other for many, many years. We're on the board of directors of FIONS, which is the Friends of the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Probably, no doubt, Scott, another place that you and I connect with, you know. And so we've gotten to know each other through that originally, and then we've had a number of different events in New York, and we've just taken such a warm, loving like of each other and appreciation. And she's been on the Earth Day events for several years now. Couldn't make it in person this year, so sent us this video to, you know, wow, it was incredible. So she's really, we call her a human, but she's really an angel.
Absolutely.
And you know, anyone who listens gets it. And it's a true honor to be a good friend of hers. So that's what I'd say as an introduction.
Great. Here we go. Everybody really drop into the beauty of the images. And by the way, you're going to hear two voices, well, three. You're going to hear Kristen singing. You're going to hear narration from Duane Elgin,
That's
who we
right.
heard from, and narration from beloved Jean Houston. So here we
Yay.
go. Gene Houston, Duane Elgin, and Kristen Hoffman, the Hula Movement Anthem.
We have entered an extraordinarily rare interval in human history, a choice point in our collective journey, a space between the past and the future where the lives of countless generations ahead will be profoundly impacted by the choices we make now.
I believe it is both subtle and large, and something else so extraordinary that there's almost no name for it, because a new human species is ready to emerge.
Participation in this transformation involves collective attention and communication on a planetary scale. This creates coherence and clarity of direction. Simply put, it is the Hula movement in motion.
It is the great universal source itself, herself, ourselves. It says it is time to wake up now. It is time to do and be what you were born to do and be.
realized halfway through, I was playing what I pulled off YouTube, which is the one without the video. But I didn't want to stop it because it's so beautiful. So at the very, very end of the show, I will play the proper one that actually has the full video for us to watch. But it's so beautiful that hopefully there's a chance for people to get up, go to the bathroom, make a cup of coffee, drink water, whatever it may be, while listening to the beauty of the song. But I will play the version that's got the actual video next.
It happens to be such a gorgeous video, so it would be worth it to do that.
Absolutely, it is. It's a beautiful video, and anyway, here we are. I wanted to ask you to perhaps do an introduction for this next gentleman that we're about to see. I did not know him before your show yesterday, and I was very impressed with his background and what he had to share. So if you'd be willing to tell us a little bit about Richard Lackey.
Sure. Well, one of the facets, Scott, of A Better World and the way I've conceived it is not to just interview the rich and the famous, the celebrities. That's fun for sure. But the sung and the unsung heroes, the people that other people just don't know, that are behind the scenes making the world happen and making the world a better place. And Richard Lackey is one of those. And I actually have not known him for a long time, but we've become quite close quite quickly because I so admire the work he's doing. Richard Lackey was introduced to me by a good friend of mine who was very impressed with his background and made sure that we got together, and I'm very glad he did. Richard has a background, so interestingly, in trading. He actually originally decided to be a paramedic and was very interested in being of help in the space of medicine, and found that he had this inclination and ability to identify trends. And so he started playing around with gold and silver and found that he was just succeeding over and over and over again and actually getting quite rich from so doing. And others came and helped them and like that. But he also felt that there was a certain emptiness, as he was describing, and you'll hear him speak of it in the video. He goes through a transformation, and it's interesting. In the interview yesterday during Earth Day, he actually so movingly sheds a tear. I actually don't even want to say that in advance, but it was so touching a moment where his whole being is moved by an incident that everyone will hear about shortly, that it changes his life virtually 180 degrees. And he puts his focus on conquering world hunger. And he's using social enterprise as the means of doing it. And he's taken major steps, especially in Africa, to turn around the economic prosperity of farmers who are otherwise in poverty. He has helped them through a series of means to start to become, relatively speaking, prosperous in their own environments and have plenty of food to eat and water. So I truly applaud him. I was honored. He had just come back from Nairobi 2 days before the day before the Earth Day celebration. So I was especially honored that he came on to spend time with us. So that's what I'd say.
All right, here we go. Let's go back here.
Haiti, where we would do having spent.
Who sort of wonder, looking around at the world, what they can do to make a difference, what they've been doing, has it been making a difference, and in a sense, ultimately who they are and what are they using their precious life force for. So.
Well, thank you. I grew up in the woods. I literally spent every free minute, even before school and after school and weekends and weeks away in the woods. Growing up in rural part of South Georgia, and just always had an affinity for nature, never felt more comfortable than in nature. And I've lived in several countries. For me, sitting in the tops of trees is the cheapest therapy you can buy. And in Costa Rica, we ended up, as a result of that, building what became the largest canopy tour in Costa Rica. I think a lot of other people appreciate that natural space as well. But for me, having spent time in emergency medicine and working in places like Haiti, where we would do surgery on 6-year-old boys and women in their 3rd trimester to remove portions of their distal colon because of the food that we had fed them, was frustrating, not because they had suffered from the disaster, but because they were eating MREs with 8,000 grams of sodium. And that had always stuck in my craw. I guess that was a bit frustrating, but for many, many years, I found that I'd had a skill for essentially what people would call a computer game now, but trading in the markets, essentially playing a computer game all day and having a net effect for the world of zero, at the end of the day, having more cash and a balance of account, but having done nothing positive for the world. And I did a lot of things on the side. I taught and I did other stuff, but actually in my day-to-day work, there wasn't really any net benefit from that. And it was, I was speaking actually, ironically, at an investment conference in New Orleans when a show came on, a news program came on, and a general came to speak, and I heard him say, "We have 7 days to save them." And when I looked up, it was in the aftermath of the hurricanes in the Philippines. And as we watched, you could tell that it was a cutaway because the video was fairly loose and not well done. They had their camera fall on a young lady. You could see the thousands and thousands of people walking away from the coast going towards Tacloban City to look for additional food and water. And you could see this one young lady walk and leave the path, the dirt path that was kind of separated between the rice paddies, and she walked into a building that was completely torn down with a young child and a slightly older child. And she went in, and a few minutes later, and he was going that way, and then all of a sudden you saw her come out, but she just had the older child with her. And just as a natural response, the reporter went up to the young lady and said, "I noticed that you went into the building with 2 children and you came out with 1. What's the reason for that?" And she said, "Well, the people they're now people coming back from Tacloban City, and they're telling us there's not enough food and water there, which we were expecting, and that there probably won't be for 10 days. And I only have a limited amount of food, so I had to pick 1 child to save." Sorry. For me, I just was stunned. I just couldn't believe that in a world today where I can go down the street and order 6 double cheeseburgers if I want it, that we don't have a plan for having food stored in strategic locations to take care of these kinds of disasters. It's not like they are going to quit happening. It's not like we don't have them all the time. And so for me, that was kind of a turning point. I said, we've got to do something about this. There's no reason in the world today that this has to happen. And my background in medicine and my background in finance, and actually my area of interest was in arbitrage, kind of drew me to inefficiencies in market systems that didn't work. So I started working on that in 2010. And in 2015, we launched, we did that in the US, and we built a network of stored food around the US, 40-foot containers with biodegradable cups, plates, forks, spoons, completed meals that were regionally specific, 80,000 meals with cook stoves and gel fuel and everything that you need. And as we started looking to go global, we realized that the challenges in Africa were not for a shortage of chicken parmesan or pasta primavera, but just for rice and beans. And so we started interviewing people in those emerging markets, developing markets, and found that the same thing would work there. Not only would it work, but we could solve a bigger problem, which was the volatility in pricing of the commodities in those countries, where the price would go through the floor and farmers would lose money because there was an excess of production. And then 3 months later, it would all have been absorbed or rotted, and the price would be back through the roof again, and manufacturers and distributors would not have enough supply. So as we started working on that, we realized that a lot of what they had, the reason it wasn't stored and the reason it wasn't sold and exported is because the technical term we would use in Georgia is that it was crappy. It was a really poor quality. It wasn't worth shipping anywhere, and it was such bad quality that it would rot quickly. And so as we did more and more research, we started training farmers. We realized that the problem really began with the soil. And for the past many years, our entire focus is now on the soil. Coming from a place where my study was in the enteric human system, the gut is a mix of bacteria and fungus and virus, and there's a balance that has to be maintained. If you give your child an antibiotic and you give it to them for several days in a row, you kill many of the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria, and you'll oftentimes have thrush, this white film that grows on the tongue. And that's because now the fungus is overgrowing in the body and it's out of balance. Well, the same thing happens in the soil. When we put chemicals on the soil or we overload with one thing or the other, the balance is lost, and the nutrition in the soil and the capacity for growing strong plants is deterred. If we're able to do the way that Mother Earth originally created, God kind of put everything together in the soil that's needed. We focus on 30 or 35 nutrients when we do hydroponics and aquaponics and all that sort of thing. But the reality of it is there's about 850 nutrients that we know of that are in the soil. And that's the reason a tomato that I would grow in my vertical garden doesn't taste as good as the one that grows in the soil. The soil has everything. And so when we discovered that if we would focus on building good soils, not only would farmers grow more and better quality, they would grow more corn of better quality, they would make more money. We found that if they did it properly, that the nutrition standards would increase, the health of the people in the village would increase. So if you start with soil, you end up doing a number of things. One is you solve for hunger because you're feeding people by growing exponentially more than they ever grew before. When they have exponentially more product, they can sell much of it. And now you're solving for poverty and you're solving for nutrition. And so you end up solving for education and for better health and for the ability to put a roof on a house and floor a house and to solve for minor industry, to be able to produce flour and dried products and so on and so forth. So it all began with teaching people to build better soil.
So beautiful. You are bringing forward another theme that I had in mind, along with love and the story you told of the mother coming out with one less child, which is all about the love that was pouring through your body at witnessing this tragedy right before your eyes. The other theme that I had in mind entering tonight's Earth Day event is the one of regeneration and the power of regeneration. And we find that just what you're saying, Richard, this idea of the biome, again, it's a micro macro. On the one hand, we've got our own personal gut and hopefully guts, and we have to take care of that and the bacterial balance, the flora and the fauna of our own biology. And when we do that, everything works well. There's an entire approach to medicine, which is based wholly on the microbiome and understanding the relationship of the biome to the brain. And that all these terrible degenerative diseases that are occurring in the brain, such as Alzheimer's, dementia of all sorts, is actually directly related to the microbiome.
Absolutely.
And you, in what you're saying, are pointing out the importance of the biome of the soil. So again, we've got the micro and the macro constantly interacting, interchanging with each other. And I so appreciate that.
Oh, delighted. Thank you.
Yeah.
I learned a lot when I was watching that yesterday and then again right now. Thank you for just helping to educate us, Mitchell.
Sure. It's one of my hats I wear, Scott. You don't see it on me right now, but I am wearing it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'm
Yeah.
going to turn it over to Omashar. I think it's time to just kind of digest all this wisdom, all this
Sure.
knowledge.
We'll go
And-
into an alpha state and really receive it.
All right. Now, I want to see people dancing. Eleanor Joy, we love your dancing, but last time we only saw your kneecaps dancing. So your wonderful, wonderful knees. We all got to know your knees really, really well.
You have hot
But we
knees,
do
haven't
love Eleanor Joy, and we love how you lead us and dance every week. Thank you so much. Brother Omashar.
I'm here, young man, and that was just very sobering what I was just listening to then, and it didn't. I don't know if it shocked me, but it distilled me the way I was feeling, and I'm really in the center of my heart and grounded right now. And what a fantastic program that has been put into place. And I know it's only a band-aid, but so anyway. This song is called Welcome Home, and it's about being home and being welcome. What a concept. Yep, flowers.
Let me shine a light inside, and I'll show you where your truth resides. Lift your eyes up to the skies, and I'll prove to you that nothing dies. Together we will rise again, and we'll make amends for what we've done. I know you hear me, so please do not fear me, 'cause I'm here to lift you, restore you to glory, and love you and hold you and be your victory. My child, I will welcome you home. Welcome you home. So let me take your hands in mine. As I look at you, your spirit shines. You see, it's true that we are one, and we came out from the central sun. I know you hear me, so please do not fear me, 'cause I'm here to lift you, restore you to glory, and love you and hold you and be your victory. My child, I will welcome you home. Welcome you home. So when you take a different view and you dream awake, breathe out the new. The world will come alive again as we dance and sing and make new friends. I know you hear me, so please do not fear me, 'cause I am here to lift you, restore you to glory, and love you and hold you and be your victory. My child, I will welcome you home. Welcome you home. So let me shine a light inside, and I'll show you where your truth resides. So let me take your hands in mine, as I look at you, your spirit shine. I know you hear me, so please do not fear me, 'cause I am here to lift you, restore you to glory, and love you and hold you and be your victory. My child, I will welcome you home. Welcome you home. Welcome you home. The world will come alive again as we dance and sing and make new friends.
A big thanks for Omashar. And I also want to acknowledge Adora. We acknowledge Eleanor Joy for dancing, but Adora dances with most of our songs as well. And
Yeah, you
Adora,
rock it,
thank
Dora.
you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Our dance team, Adora and Eleanor Joy. Often when he's with us, our beloved Reverend Jeffrey, and anybody else who moves and grooves to the music. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Omashar, for just the beautiful songs and all that you bring to us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So grateful for you, beyond words. Beyond
Omashar, you are so good.
Thank
You
you.
are so good.
Yay.
All right. We are one love. And thank you, Jay Mayer, for the videos. And it is time for the Global Peace Tribe announcements. And I've got some really fun announcements. I want to start by acknowledging two of our absolute favorite luminaries. Jennifer Hill, who of course co-hosted, and I was so grateful for her covering for me last week and doing a great job with Omashar, and Kimberly Meredith. And they are coming together to teach a course. And it's going to be a combination of Kimberly's extensive medical mediumship readings and healings, along with Jennifer Hill, who's going to teach you how to unlock your fifth dimension superpowers. You've seen them both on our show many, many times, and they are going to start this course on April 27th. So it's starting really, really soon. It's starting next week. And it'll be 7 Thursdays, 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, 2 o'clock Eastern, and it goes for 7 weeks. And I really strongly recommend doing this course. It's going to be fabulous. And you're going to learn a lot of different things. You're going to learn how to really tap into your most power. There'll be some vocal superpower stuff going on. There'll be healings and readings coming from Kimberly. It's going to be wonderful. And there's a special offer. If you join her Angel Club, you can save $50. I'm going to put the link to this in the chat box, and really want to encourage all of you to consider it, because we love Jennifer, we love Kimberly, and together they are going to be quite a team. We also have next week a couple of very special shows. First off, on Wednesday night, we are going to be learning much more about epigenetics. Mr. Collins, who now goes by Morea Love, is going to be co-hosting with me, as well as teaching. And then Geraldine Orozco, who is amazing. She's an epigenetic psychotherapist. She's also an alien hybrid. She's extremely wise. And then Morea's partner, Carrie Bailey, are all going to be teaching us really about what are epigenetics, how do we work with them, how do we honor our ancestral background, and really, again, become the best that we can be. So make sure you join us. That's going to be on Wednesday night, as always, at 6 o'clock Pacific time. And then next weekend, we are celebrating our anniversary. We have now completed 3 full years of doing Global Peace Tribe shows. Thank you, Ayada. I see you applauding. I appreciate that. Yeah, it all started with Deborah Giusti and I doing Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe. And then Trish and I started doing the Straight Talk show, and she branched off and started doing the Self-Love show as well. Then I started doing my Sacred Sunday show. So a lot of our favorite people are going to be dropping in. Some are going to send video appreciation. Some are going to be with us live. But it's going to be both Saturday and Sunday. We're going to play some clips from our favorite shows of the past or favorite moments. We're going to have some visits from some of our friends. Of course, Omashar will be with us live. Kristen Hoffman will be with us live. Eden and Trish. And most of the people you're seeing on the poster are going to be with us live, both Saturday night and Sunday morning. So that's something that I'm really excited about. I really want to encourage you to invite your friends, invite people to join us. And then the last thing that I want to mention in terms of shows is tomorrow. Once a month now, Omashar and I do a show where we talk with you, the audience. And tomorrow is that once a month show. So please join us in the Zoom room. We're going to be talking about plans for the future. And I do have some special things planned. Fanny and Vigari just agreed they're going to come and play music. And of course, Omashar will play music. Also, Shri of Shri and Kira has a little special message that I'll be sharing with you. And the great Paul Sterling, one of the great relationship coaches, is going to drop in and join us tomorrow. And then finally, I've got a special message from Larissa Stowe that I'll be playing. So it's going to be a really fun show tomorrow. Of course, our Sacred Sunday show is always at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it sounds like somebody needs to mute. I think that's probably Mitchell, and I muted him. So thank you for the anniversary greetings. And really, a wonderful way to celebrate the anniversary is let's bring new people into the awakening world. Please encourage them to register, to join the Global Peace Tribe, to come on into our Zoom rooms, invite friends, start watch parties. I really want us to grow our audience, and it's important. In order to even continue, we do need to grow our audience, and I need your help with inviting your friends, your family, people that you know. Go to our YouTube channel and pick out a show or a topic, or even just a short segment that you think anybody you know might be interested in. And, a reminder, and I'll talk a lot more about it tomorrow, but we've got a very elaborate YouTube channel. And you can find all of our shows there. You can show favorite shows and special segments. So let's help grow our audience. I want to take a quick look to see if Zenka joined us. Otherwise, we'll hear from her tomorrow. No, she's not in with us yet. So Zenka is also going to join us tomorrow. All right, I am now going to go back to my co-host, and let's give Mitchell some love if I can find him. Mitchell, turn your camera on. Mitchell Rabin, we need you to turn on your camera. There he is. Let's give Mitchell some love because he did a great job last night, and he's doing a great job today, and it's great to have you with us, Mitchell. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's so beautiful to be here with your group, with your tribe. I've become a tribesman.
You are part of the tribe now. You are part of the tribe. And Carol says, maximum grace, Mitchell. You are, and everybody thanking you for coming.
Thank you. I love all your people. I'm having so much fun with a little chat here and there.
And you get to introduce our final speaker for the night. Again, I met him through you yesterday. So please tell us a little bit about John.
Sure, absolutely. John Scholl is a biological psychologist. And actually, he's got quite a vast background that I hardly know much about, from digital types of computing and community building and things like that are kind of over my head, quite honestly. But he did a lot of work with prosthetics, and he's actually a quite successful businessman who, it sometimes happens, more often than we realize, that people who have spent their lives in business, maybe making some real wealth, at a certain point in their lives say, okay, I got it. My wealth is not just for me. It's for sharing with the world and doing good things. And it's a beautiful moment that many people come to. Some of us enter in that space, but others get to it at a certain point in their maturing. And that is the case with John. And he turned toward prosthetics and coming up with this very innovative way of providing prosthetic limbs to people who could not afford them. And it's a whole enterprise that he has had going for many, many years. And he took the same logic he used to build that and applied it to the space of the climate crisis. And out of that came the Eco Restoration Alliance. And there he is doing some fabulous work in building out that idea that I spoke about before. Well, primarily replanting, rebuilding native local habitats. So there's an emphasis on native, and there's an emphasis on local, and there's an emphasis on habitat. That it's not just taking a lot of trees, and we've got the technology to plant 1 billion trees a year with drones, no problem, but that actually is not an answer to a lot of our issues. But it's planting certain trees with certain bushes and certain flowers and certain crops in certain areas that where these things are native. And that's where they grow best. And they communicate with each other under the soil best. And they build the biome of the soil, as Richard Lackey was speaking about, best. And it's not just one for all everywhere. Nature doesn't really work like that. But just like we have local communities in our cities, so too nature has localities with certain diverse plants within that locality. And based on climate and all sorts of other considerations, it's appropriate for certain plants to be in certain places. And that's what they're doing. This idea of building a geosponge where water is used prudently and wisely with soil in such a way that there is no longer runoff, and there becomes the building of fungus and networks under the ground, by the way, through which the mycelium communicate from tree to tree. And it's like a whole language is taking place, a whole communication network far beyond Verizon or AT&T lives in the soil when we take good care of the soil. It sequesters the carbon we need to sequester, and everything changes. And that's what John Scholl is so brilliant in discussing, and he does so on our Earth Day, which everyone will now have a chance to see.
Here we
That's
go.
my intro. The sound.
I have had some success creating a global distributed community of volunteers who are addressing needs that, frankly, established enterprises like our governments, businesses, NGOs have failed to address. A global network of volunteers, in the case of Enable at least, is able to reach at least some people who fall through the cracks of all of those systems that make civilization great, except when they don't. And it's the underserved and the neglected who end up becoming the big crises and the big problems where established enterprises fail. Unfortunately, I think the whole planet is in that situation right now. Governments, businesses, NGOs have failed to address this planetary crisis, only one symptom of which is climate change. And it's in part, I think, because we're not playing with a full deck. We're not playing with a full deck in part because those who hold the cards actually control what is dealt to us. But it seems to me that this session has really gotten me thinking about this whole question of agency and effective action, as Lynn Wild and Richard Lackey have talked about before. It seems to me that effective action hinges on really the convergence of three different elements, and they all have to be active at the same time. We need, if we're going to fix things, we need to have a sense of agency. We're going to need to have a sense of community or communion, and I think that's been very well addressed by you and your speakers tonight. There's this sense of kinship with each other and kinship with life on Earth. But effective action also means that we need to have a proper understanding of how things work. As a biologist, I'm sensitive to some of these questions of physiological mechanism. You mentioned, and I just want to call everyone's attention to this interesting relationship between the microbiome, the 80% of our body, which is not of our own DNA, but is all of these mitochondria and bacteria with which we are symbiotic systems, and the soil microbiome. Both of these are in trouble right now, right? Many of the illnesses of modern humanity have to do with depletion of our microbiome. And the problems of the planet have to do with depletion of the soil microbiome. And it's not just a metaphor, it's not just analogy. This is the same microbiome. This is the same millions or billions of organisms that we have in our gut and in our cells by virtue of the fact that they come to us over the course of our own development since birth from the soil and the bacteria and the microorganisms that make up the planet. If the planet is healthy, the planet is not healthy. We have been literally depleting the plants and the animals on the planet, drawing out, dehydrating,
I'm not sure why it stopped. Let's try again. Come on. Well, that's okay. I'm going to stop it and try going back in. And Mitchell, you're muted. Go ahead and share for a moment while I go back and try and get it going again.
Oh, sure. You know, I'm sure you've had Dr. Bruce Lipton on at one point or another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a very close friend of mine. And one of the points that he makes on my shows and in conversation, and no doubt on yours, is that most of what we are is not even human cells. And John, of course, is just making that point. He described it as bacteria and mitochondria. Bruce, of course, talks about bacteria and viruses, does Zach Bush, that these far outpopulate our human cellular population. So it begs the question of who are we? You know, we're more bacteria than we are human, yet we claim just our humanity. In fact, we are so much nature, so much that this is, if anybody has any confusion about nature somehow being out there, separate and apart from us, sort of like a la Descartes, they're really missing this show because they're not getting what their own gut and their own entire biology consists of, right? And John is making that point, you know, rather eloquently. And when we realize that we, just like the soil, are just full of bacteria and viruses and the mycelium, fungus. And it's supposed to be that way. These are living organisms inside us, outside us, that propagate life itself. And add to that the fact that we are 75 to 80% water. Well, get a load of that. We're like an ocean. We're like a series of rivers right here in our own human body. When we begin to think about this and really contemplate this, Scott, it can change everything. It makes us truly one with everything around us. We talk about Mother Nature as out there, but Mother Nature is absolutely also in us. So that's one of the beautiful points that John helps to elucidate, as did, you know, a few of our other speakers throughout the night. And certainly in my talk, I was making this point as well. It underlies everything. On a practical level, this notion that I referred to in my talk last night, since I know you're still trying to cue this up, I made reference to the microbiologist Walter Haney. That's spelled, I don't know if it's Australian, but Jehne. Haney, it's pronounced apparently. And he talks about this phenomenon of a geosponge. And it's the combination of the most elemental parts of nature, water and soil. And when they interact in a certain way, where you don't get water runoff, but you get water absorption into the soil, you can have very deep roots, which allows for greatest levels of carbon sequestration and the greatest communication under the ground between organisms and the richest, deepest, most nutritional soil. It's sort of like what the whole game is about. And it's right before us, even before 1 inch of technology, even though I love technology. So those are some of the basic points I was making and John was making. And if you're able to cue it up a bit, that would be fantastic to hear it from his mouth instead of just mine.
Well, I think you did a great job covering it. And given that we're already 38 minutes past our normal stopping point.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You did a great job of covering it.
Thank you.
I apologize. I think I was able to queue up the proper version of Kristen's video. And I think while I was doing that, the computer got confused about which QuickTime I was playing. But you know, a beautiful job. I want to show this beautiful artwork that Doreen created for today. And then Mitchell, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about A Better World, and then we'll wrap up with Kristen's video. But look at Dorina from Ecuador is one of our regulars. She's always with us. And this is something that she created for Earth Day and for tonight.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of
one gifted woman. I've been reading her. She's diligent and a real researcher. She made reference to enjoying John's presentation last night. She spent the day, she said, in one of her texts, researching some of what he put out last night.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Well,
beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mitchell, tell us about A Better World.
Well, I'll give you the short version. Scott, I actually started A Better World in 1993. I had a healing center, a stress management center here in New York, based on the work I've been doing for many years as a holistic coach and psychotherapist and stress management consultant. I've actually got a background in Chinese medicine and acupuncture especially. And I was getting interviewed. I had a healing center using flotation tanks and a sound womb. And I was getting interviewed a lot by radio and TV around the New York tri-state area. And one of the fellows who came to interview me and see my center that became quite popular was a fellow named Gary Null, who's kind of a radio celebrity and a nutritionist and scientist, and loved what I was doing. And I'm, to this day, that was 1990, I'm about to leave in mid-May to teach at another one of his retreats. I've been teaching at his retreats several times a year for almost 30 years now. And he's really the one that inspired me to take media seriously back then. And I thought, what can I say? What can I offer the world that everyone will agree on? And well, everyone wants a better world. We may have different ways of thinking about it and seeing it and creating it, but that at base, everybody wants for themselves and for their loved ones and for everybody else. So I named the show A Better World, and I've been on the air since March. Last month was 30 years.
Wow.
Every single week.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Talk about anniversaries, right?
Wow.
So
that is really.
That's what I've been up to. And then I started radio on Pacifica Radio. And then Gary started an online thing called Progressive Radio Network. I was one of the first hosts there as well. And I've done just different radio things. And now we call them podcasts, of course. And so I've been doing radio and TV all of these years. Wow. And interviewing the sung and the unsung heroes of society. A Better World is a bit of a larger rubric umbrella. I have the media, I have my coaching and my counseling and advisory. And I also work with CEOs of startup companies, usually in the green, ESG, eco-friendly space largely, as well as health and healing, nutritional things. And I advise them and I help to build the companies and often raise money and help with the branding and the marketing. And I'm sort of a thought partner, if you will. A friend of mine gave me that phrase recently, and help them think through the future and creating a product or a technology or solutions to dealing with the issues to create a better world. So social enterprise, do good, do well is really the motto of a better world. So planetary healing.
Beautiful. So again, everybody, that's abetterworld.net. abetterworld.net. You can donate. Thank you. Also, I just seen there's, of course, the wonderful program he did yesterday. You know, I want to give a shout out to Andrew Kane. Andrew, I know, is one of your sponsors. He did a beautiful poem at our retreat and also for you last night, and his sound healing. And Andrew, I see you are in the audience. And so I don't expect you to jump in and say, but we'll all twinkle Andrew. There he is on camera there for a minute. Hey, bro, good to see you again. Thank you for all that you do and for coming to our LA retreat. It was great to get to know you. Thank you for your sound healing and thank you for your beautiful poetry.
Thank you.
All right, well, Mitchell, we have come to the conclusion.
My word.
I'm going to bring beloved brother, my co-pilot Omashar, on for a last moment. And then we'll go to Kristen Hoffman to close us out. And we'll be able to hear that song again with the video. Mitchell, it was great. Thank you so much.
Brother.
Mitchell, thank you so much.
Omashar, so beautiful to be here with you both and with your whole community. I so enjoyed it. It's great to hang out, great to get people's reactions, tuning in, music, the whole 9 yards.
Thank you, brother.
Well,
thank you, and I'm glad to come back another time.
Absolutely. As you just said, let's
continue playing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know all my friends, so come on.
Great. All right. Well,
Beautiful.
we're going to go to this time the proper version of the holo version. Boy, I tell you, every time I play this, I end up having this song in my mind, Mitchell, for the rest of the night for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the proper version.
Sure. Understood.
We have entered an extraordinarily rare interval in human history, a choice point in our collective journey, a space between the past and the future where the lives of countless generations ahead will be profoundly impacted by the choices we make now.
I believe it is both subtle and large, and something else so extraordinary that there's almost no name for it, because a new human species is ready to emerge.
Participation in this transformation involves collective attention and communication on a planetary scale. This creates coherence and clarity of direction. Simply put, it is the holo movement in motion.
It is the great universal source itself, herself, ourselves. It says it is time to wake up now. It is time to do and be what you were born to do and be.
I'm going to let the credits play because really everybody who was part of this did such an amazing job. And a big Emmanuel Kunzelman is really been the visionary behind so much of this. I want to acknowledge him, and Sir Rhiannon Catalyst, who chose most of these beautiful visuals that we saw. And Purpose Earth and Source of Synergy Foundation, who actually paid for the production of this. I think it's just an incredible video, and I really encourage people to share it with their audience. And I'm seeing so many wonderful messages that came in. Thank you, everybody. Dorena Joy for all your contributions. Carol Craig, our wonderful teacher. And most of all, Mitchell, thank you for co-hosting a beautiful show. And remember, everybody, let's make every day Earth Day. Okay. See you tomorrow. Good Sunday show.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Sacred Sunday show. See you tomorrow, everybody. I'm going to go to
Go for it.
Go ahead and unmute and say hello, say goodbye. Thank you, everybody that's still with us. I know it was a long show tonight. It's great to see so many people I know and love. I love you guys.
Love you all. Thanks again, Scott.
Love you guys. Thanks.
Great show.